Ever wonder why Scotland's national animal is a unicorn? Or how Wales ended up with two national plants? Well, today we're jumping right into the incredible world of symbols from all across the United Kingdom. We're going to see how these emblems tell a much bigger story, a story of four very different nations and a few unique islands, all woven together in this really complex union.
Okay, you've all seen this flag, right? The Union Jack? It's everywhere. But what does it really stand for? Is it one country, one people, all united? Well, the story woven into this famous design, it's a whole lot more complicated than you might think.
And that's because, the United Kingdom isn't just one single country in the way you might imagine. Nope, it's actually this unique union of four separate nations. And each one has its own incredibly deep history, its own fierce pride, and, you guessed it, its own set of really powerful symbols.
So, here's the game plan for how we're going to unpack all this. First, we'll get straight on what United Kingdom even means. Then, we'll check out the symbols for the whole Union. After that, we're doing a deep dive into the four home nations. This is where it gets really good. We'll even take a little trip to the Crown dependencies. And we'll wrap it all up by asking what this amazing visual language really tells us about the UK today.
All right, let's kick things off with that big question. Is the UK more than one kingdom? And the short answer? Oh yeah, absolutely.
So here's the main thing you need to get your head around. The United Kingdom is a political union, right? It's made up of four countries: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Plus, you've got these self-governing islands called Crown dependencies. And every single one of these places has its own distinct identity, which they often show off through some really powerful symbols.
Okay, but before we break it all down into those individual nations, let's take a quick look at the symbols that represent the UK as a whole. The ones you'd see on the world stage.
So for the entire UK, the big one is obviously the Union flag. It's a mashup of the crosses of St. George for England, St. Andrew for Scotland, and St. Patrick for Ireland. But what's really interesting is who's missing. There's no Welsh symbol in there, which is a big point of discussion even today. Then you have Britannia, that classic warrior woman, as the national personification. The go-to animal is the lion for strength. And of course, the anthem is God Save the King.
All right, now we get to the really fascinating part. Let's dive into the four home nations, because this is where those unique identities just pop right out.
Just look at the contrasts on the slide. It's amazing. England has the lion, right? But then you look over at Scotland, and their national animal is a unicorn, a mythical creature. It's supposed to represent purity and power. And while England's Tudor rose is pretty straightforward, Wales has this whole debate going on between the leek and the daffodil. And get this, each nation has its own unofficial anthem that you'll hear belted out with so much passion at any sporting event.
And this quote, this just perfectly sums up that fierce Scottish spirit. In my defense, God me defend. It's the nation's motto. You'll see it on their royal coat of arms. I mean, what a powerful statement of faith and resilience. It's been echoing through Scotland's history for centuries.
So what is the deal with Wales having two national plants? Well, the leek is the super ancient one. The story goes that Welsh soldiers wore them in their helmets to tell each other apart in battle. The daffodil is a bit newer. It became popular in the 19th century. But here's the cool part. The Welsh name for daffodil is Cyninen Pedre, which literally means Peter's leek. So they're beautifully linked together.
Okay, now we turn to Northern Ireland. And here, the symbols are really deeply tied into a complex and pretty sensitive political history. So as you can imagine, its symbolic landscape is very, very different from the other home nations. So here's the key thing to understand. Officially, Northern Ireland hasn't had its own government-approved flag since 1973. It just doesn't have one. But the Ulster banner, which was the flag of its old government, is still used all the time. It's basically a de facto flag, especially for things like international sports. It really just shows you the layered identity of the region.
All right, let's step off the mainland for a minute and take a little journey to the Crown dependencies. Now, these are self-governing islands. They're not technically part of the UK, but they have this really unique relationship with the British Crown.
We're talking about Jersey and Guernsey, down in the Channel Islands, and the Isle of Man, which is in the Irish Sea. Each one has its own distinct flag. And you've got to check out the Isle of Man's flag, that incredible three-legged symbol. That's called the Triskelion.
And this is just a bit of fun. The Channel Islanders have these brilliant traditional nicknames for each other. People from Jersey, they're called toads. From Guernsey, donkeys. And from the smaller island of Alderney, they're rabbits. Now, these aren't insults at all. They're just these quirky, affectionate terms that come from old local stories.
And this brings us back to that three-legged symbol. This is the powerful motto of the Isle of Man. In Latin it means, whithersoever you throw it, it will stand. The whole idea is that no matter how you toss that triskelion, it always lands on its feet. It's a perfect symbol for the resilience and stability of the Manx people.
So we've looked at all these flags, flowers, and weird and wonderful animals. What's the big picture here? Why does any of this stuff actually matter?
Because at the end of the day, these symbols are so much more than just trivia answers or pictures in a book. They're like a visual language. They're shorthand for centuries of history, culture, and identity. A unicorn, a dragon, a thistle. Every single one tells a story about a people and a place.
And that really leads us to one final thought. The world is always changing, right? And identities are always evolving. So the meanings of these symbols might change too. The real question is, what story will these ancient emblems tell next? Will it be a story of unity or diversity or maybe even independence? That's something to think about.